Hey guys. Blah.
I'm seeing things that aren't real. I'm seeing things I shouldn't see. I'm dreaming things I've never seen.
You're beginning to think in images, concrete images. Hot, cold, light, dark, food, hunger, pain.
Hey guys, it's Inkeater, and welcome to VAM, Vinyl and Music News, where we talk about vinyl, music, and sometimes music news. And as much as I want to talk about Bohemian Rhapsody, the new Freddie Mercury documentary that is finally coming out, featuring the guy from Mr. Robot, which is a really awesome show if you haven't checked it out. It's literally like Robin Hood meets technology. I forget, somebody described it to me. Well, we were talking about it, and I described it as like Robin Hood meets technology, and then they added something to it, and I can't remember quite what that is, but if you like Robin Hood, if you like technology, if you like hackers, definitely check it out. Beyond that, tonight I wanted to talk about Queen, as you can tell, but not in the typical sense. Not in the sense of talking about, oh, their world's greatest hits. Well, maybe, kinda. Or just talking about Bohemian Rhapsody and what an amazing song it is and how it was written, because, well, that is really cool. It's one of those stories that gets told quite often. Not to say that this one isn't told quite often, but did you know that Freddie Mercury made the logo for Queen, or rather the crest, if you want to call it? Freddie Mercury from Queen actually went to school for graphic design. I can't remember what the school was called, but he ultimately designed Queen's logo, which is kind of supposed to resemble the royal crest, and it features all the members in the band with their zodiac symbols, which I think is really insanely, like, nerdy and cool and just genius. And I think it's kind of, like, proves the point that art and music, they kind of go synonymously, or at least I like to think. What's interesting, though, that I learned about this whole shenanigans is the logo was actually outlined on some of their earlier albums, which I was like, oh, go figure. I've never really looked at my collection in that sense of, like, do I have this? Do I not have this? As soon as somebody brings something up, or I need to have this because it has XYZ thing on it. I have some really cool albums that have stickers and posters in them, but by no means do I go and I remember that. It's kind of one of those surprises that I find, like, oh yeah, that's right. I mean, granted, there's some that I definitely remember and I know. Like, I know I have a Star Wars poster, and I cannot think of the other one. Right now, anyway. But one of the cool things that I found out was Queen, on their earlier albums, actually had the Queen crest logo on those particular albums. And this one happens to be from 1974, and you can see it right there. And I thought that was insanely cool, because I didn't even know that. This is on the Sheer Heart Attack album. And what's really, in case most people have this album, I want to say, which is News of the World, and this is probably like my favorite album, not just because of the music, but because of the artwork. It was such an awesome album that I actually drew it. I think it's like in 1 or 2 or 3 parts. I will leave a link somewhere to a playlist if that's the case. In case you're curious in checking that out. I should really make a print of that particular drawing, because it's just so cool. But it was something that I felt like I had to draw. But it was kind of interesting because I knew I had seen the crest and the logo before, and it's actually on the News of the World album. There we go. As you can see right there. Bloop. You can see the crest. So basically, from what I understand, the wings at the top is supposed to be a phoenix rising. Then you've got a crab, which is supposed to represent and Brian, and then 2 lions are John and Roger. I cannot remember names of bands. I just know that Freddie Mercury is represented by the 2 fairy-like creatures down at the bottom. And they represent Virgo. So it represents all their zodiac signs, which I think is kind of cool to know that much information about a logo. Me personally, I just think it's insanely cool that Freddie Mercury created the logo for Queen. It's kind of one of those things where you're like, Wow, that is really insanely cool. Not surprising because a lot of band members create their own logos, but it's kind of cool to hear that he actually went to graphic design school. There was actually a rhyme and a reason behind his design, and it's not generally talked about at all, I don't think. At least I don't remember in my graphic design classes anybody ever bringing up the Queen logo and how awesome it is. Granted, I've later come to find out this as a result, but beyond news of the world, sheer heart attack, I figured I'd show you the rest of my Queen collection. I have Queen the Game. One of the things that I love is just how Freddie Mercury looks different in just about every album. And then this is probably like iconic Freddie in the works. And then, oh, before I forget, I almost forgot an album. This happens to be my favorite. I don't think I have it on an actual 12-inch. I think I just have the single, which is Bicycle Race and Fat Bottom Girls. And one of my favorite things about this album is look how young. I mean, look at these faces. But what gets me is Freddie Mercury rocking the suspenders and what looked like ballet shoes. Like, I love his style of art, of like dressing and just owning it. It's one of my favorite things about him. Anyway, hopefully I don't get demonetized for showing a butt, because I just realized I kind of showed a butt crack. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that. For those, here's a second shot in case you missed it. Woo! Man, reflective lights are battling us. Anyway, let me know down in the comments below. Did you know Freddie Mercury made his own logo? What are some other bands that have really cool logos, that have really cool stories behind them? Because I'm curious, and I think everybody out there knows a band that has a really cool logo, and there's a whole story behind it. Anyway, feel free to comment down below, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys are doing awesome. Bye!
Whatever it is that you believe you're seeing, it's not real.
Seeing things before they happen.
Things are not always what they seem in this place. So you can't take anything for granted.